In my very recent video called Living Under Apartheid in Denmark in 2024, I substantiate how the Danish government and its intelligence agencies are prohibiting people from doing any business with me or my small business called One Stop Engine Shop. And now that the month of June of 2024 is over, I want to substantiate these claims even further. Also shed some light on how the arbitrary and illegal prohibitions are obviously not just regarding my small business and or me being allowed to sell my Seat Ibiza, which has not been allowed to be sold for 1 year and 4 months now. However, the government's restrictions and prohibitions against me, Stephen Bell, are much more all-encompassing. However, it is much easier for me to prove the apartheid state that I'm living under in regards to my small business, rather than the fact that I'm being treated as a de facto enemy combatant, living under some kind of arbitrary house arrest in isolation, because people likewise are being prohibited from organically engaging or speaking with me. So unless it's on behest of the government and the intelligence agencies in connection to this global social engineering experiment, I'm not allowed to have any interactions or conversations, and I'm only allowed to have these kind of adversarial interactions on Twitter. Otherwise, I might as well be stranded on a desert island for well over a decade now. These well-known aspects of the apartheid state and the public persecution of me are a little more challenging to prove, because everybody's fearful of speaking out in fear of receiving the same kind of extrajudicial treatment and punishment as I am. But be that as it may, we all know it to be true. So the outright prohibitions against my small business, One Stop Engine Shop, and the public from doing any business with me, Stephen Bell, wouldn't be in place if it wasn't for the global social engineering program and the public persecution. So going back to substantiating and proving these claims, let's look at the actual numbers from June of 2024 as it relates to my website and Facebook Marketplace traffic. In the month of June, I have had 2,176 visits to my web shop from 1,356 different people. So that's 820 people out of the total visits who are repeat visitors. These people evidently have a more keen interest in my web shop. Furthermore, on Facebook Marketplace in the same period of time, I have had 3,258 people looking at my items and my car that I likewise advertise for sale on my web shop. Looking at the conversion rate, which means the total number of visits to a website that leads to a sale, which obviously can fluctuate from web shop to web shop. So we have to go with the average. And according to the most reputable sources, an average conversion rate is around 3 to 2.5%. So that is the number we are going to go with. So we are dividing 2.5 with 5,434, which is 136. That is sales that I should have had according to the well understood metrics of e-commerce in relation to conversion rate. As a direct cause of the Danish government's arbitrary and illegal prohibitions and restrictions on the public at large, including myself, in the month of June of 2024, I was only allowed to have 3 sales out of 136. That's like 98% complete prohibitions on my small business. Not only was I almost completely prohibited from having any sales at all, however, the government also made sure to only allow me to sell very low worth items. So the turnover was a mere 1,130 kroner, which is like $162. So both metrics are so abysmal and deviate astronomically from the metrics and previous sales figures that I have had since starting my business in 2020. From December of 2023, the Danish government's almost complete prohibitions against my small business and me came into effect, just as they announced to the world would happen After all, I am living under an apartheid state and I am being publicly persecuted. So throughout 2024, the turnover from my small business has dropped astronomically from years previous, even though the interest in my small business and web shop has not decreased that much from previous years, despite the huge increase in the intensity of the government's continuous psychological operations, aka propaganda campaigns, which the intelligence agency PET have been propagandizing to the public at large in Denmark against me, Stephen Bell, and my one-stop engine shop as a means of discouraging people from having any organic interest in my small business. Moreover, in the first 6 months of 2023, I turned over 126,215 kroner or 18,162 US dollars. Comparing that to year 2024, the first 6 months, where I only had been allowed to turn over 44,631 kroner or 6,400 US dollars. That's almost 3 times less revenue than the year before. And looking at June of 2023, my turnover was 21,457 kroner or 3,090 US dollars, compared to a mere 162 US dollars in 2024. So as you see, it is blatantly obvious, and this huge decrease in incoming revenue that suddenly appears without there being any real cause can only be attributed to other external factors that are completely outside of my influence and control. So this situation that I find myself at the forefront of is a perfect example of what the future holds in the not so distant future in Western societies for people like me who the Western powers deem a threat to their interest or undesirable in any way, whom will most likely begin to receive the same kind of treatment and punishment that they have subjected me, Stephen Bell, to extrajudicially. And as I have definitively proven yet again, they will make it impossible for you to make any kind of decent living from your own small business. And in doing so, they couldn't care less how many fellow citizens of Denmark or any other country whose rights and freedoms they will also violate when they prohibit or restrict people from exercising their legal rights and freedoms to purchase anything that they want from whomever they want. And regard to my small business, One Stop Engine Shop, which is actually a VAT registered business that the Danish government has de facto made illegal without having any kind of justification or merit. And as we all know, this is just the top of the iceberg that was most easy to prove.